now I can't remember of it. The Cimarron National Grassland is what it is. Or sorry, Cimarron National Grassland.
I just can't always remember the name Cimarron. It's like cinnamon, Cimarron, yeah.
It is a tough name. I wonder where it comes from. Maybe we should look that up someday.
It's like there should be a podcast that like explains
how things are named.
No, like explains Kansas. And,
explains. Yeah. Oh yeah, we could just do that.
That's this podcast, Sydney.
But
we're on it. Welcome to Ask a Kansan,
a podcast where we're amplifying, connecting, and uncovering stories across Kansas.
And today our guest on Ask a Kansan is Beccy Tanner. And Beccy is a seasoned journalist, and she has covered the bulk of the state, the whole state really, for the last 40 years.
Quite literally has uncovered, amplified, and connected Kansas through her career.
Yeah. And in our conversation today, we just hit the highlights of what Beccy's
Very
done
much so.
And hear a little bit of her passion, which she has a huge amount of passion for this state and its people. Without any further ado, hope you enjoy this episode with Beccy Tanner. Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Do I
get to come over here?
You do.
We'd love it if you would.
It's the hot seat.
Yeah.
Well, they're all the same seat, but that one's just warmer.
This one's electrifying.
Yes.
I love the colors. That looks
Thank
so
you.
good. Okay, here we are. Well, thanks for coming on Ask a Kansan today.
I'm honored.
Yeah, I'm Gus.
I'm Sydney.
Okay, I'm really Beccy Tanner. So
yeah, well, it's really great to have you today. And it's our honor to have you. Could you start by just introducing yourself for our audience?
Sure. I'm Beccy Tanner. I'm a freelance reporter, journalist. I've been involved in a lot of things. I was inducted into the Kansas Newspaper Hall of Fame in 2023. And the cool thing about that was that I was inducted with about 23 other women. And it was the first time. Up until then, there were only a handful of women in the Hall of Fame. And so it was really neat. People I'd admired all my life to just be with them.
Wow.
Okay, that was a highlight.
No, that's great.
Most days are not that exciting.
Could you tell us just a little bit about your background in Kansas? Like, were you born here?
I was actually at the St. Joseph Hospital. I stipulate that difference in Larned, as opposed to the Larned State Hospital. Yeah. But I grew up on a farm, and I'm a fourth generation Kansan. And to me, that's kind of the center of everything, of just having those experiences and then going into journalism. That was kind of fun.
Well, in my research, I saw that you're from near Radium, Kansas. Is that right? How does Radium get its name? That's pretty
That
specific.
is a cool story because it was like back in 1910 or so, maybe a little earlier. But the town needed a name, and they couldn't think of anything. And so the post office suggested radium because Madame Curie had just discovered radium, and they liked the idea of it being a bright substance. And so
that may or may not kill you depending on your exposure.
That may or may not be a good thing, but I'm very proud of that. Yeah. And so there you are. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, today the town has maybe 30 residents or so, but my grandfather in 1921, he was the superintendent, and he helped consolidate the schools around Radium.
Oh, wow.
And Radium was one of the first, I think there were like half a dozen schools that were consolidated about that same time in Kansas. And Radium was the first to have a hot lunch school program. I think that's kind of cool.
That is cool.
So then the closest town besides Radium, what was that? St. John?
It was actually Seward.
Seward. Okay, gotcha.
And Seward is best known for Mom's Bar and Grill. And they have these T-shirts that say, where in the hell is Seward, Kansas? Stafford County. And it's just, no, St. John was, oh gosh, from our farm, it was about 11 miles. Oh, wow. And so that's where I went to school.
Okay. So that's how you got connected with St. John.
It's
originally.
true.
Okay.
It is true.
Okay. So I'm gonna come back to kind of how you found journalism, but I'm going to jump forward in time and ask you a deep question. I usually save deep questions for the end, but I just can't.
Oh, I love deep questions.
I know. When you look at a map of Kansas, about 75 miles of our border is formed by natural phenomenon, the Missouri River, of course. But the other 1,100 miles are straight line borders that humans made up, right?
True.
So the premise of this podcast and much of the work you've done in your career rests on the idea that the distinctiveness of the people living within that seemingly arbitrary rectangle is worthy of being focused on. So what is it about this place and these people that make it and us a good subject for writing?
I love that question. I don't think it is a coincidence that our state song is Home on the Range. I don't think it is a coincidence that the one thing Dorothy is trying to do in The Wizard of Oz is go home. I don't think it's a coincidence that we have a town in Kansas named Home. I think for many of us, this is home. And I think the important thing is to try and find those diverse stories, because we all have a way of getting home. And they're all different ways. And that's, I think, is the element of what we do, if that makes sense.
We just had a conversation a couple episodes ago where our guest kind of turned the tables on us, and she goes, well, how do you know if you're a transplant? Like, when you're a Kansan, and my response is when you feel like you're home. And so it's kind of full circle.
Yeah.
Well, and at the Eagle, the Wichita Eagle, where I used to work for 35 years, the thing, we would joke about it, but if you'd been here 15 minutes, you were a Kansan. And, you know, it doesn't matter how long you've been here. If you can identify with this as home, you're home.
I don't know that every state could say that. So,
well, it's true. We have so many things that are fascinating, that are different than other states. And to me, that's the challenge of helping tell those stories.
So how did you discover journalism?
I knew when I was 5 years old, I wanted to be a journalist. We had a school trip to the St. John News, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. Plus, my grandfather was always writing letters to the newspaper. And I figured, well, that's important.
What was it about that trip to the office?
We got to see the printing press. There you go.
So it was literally watching the news be printed.
Yes.
Gotcha. Wow. Cool.
And I mean, the thing about journalism now and always has been is we will always have a need to tell stories. We will always have people who need to know the information. And how we do that changes. And it's changed dramatically. But we'll still be around.
Did you start your career at the Wichita Eagle?
I did not. Great Bend Tribune. And then I went to the Sterling Bulletin, the Hutch News, the Salina Journal, and then the Wichita Eagle. I started out at the Eagle as their bureau chief in western Kansas in Dodge City, and it was in the Lorlock Hotel in Dodge. And I loved it because it was just like in Gunsmoke, where they
I like any sentence that starts, it's just like in Gunsmoke.
No. I mean, it was this wonderful hotel that was built like in the 1920s or so. I can't remember exactly, but the thing about it that was so cool was it had these doors that were just like saloon doors that you'd walk through.
That's an entrance. Yeah.
It was an entrance.
Wow. So you're Western Kansas bureau chief. And then at some point you kind of just were given free rein to focus on Kansas. Is that true? Or
It's always been true, let's
Okay.
face it.
Whether they wanted it or
with
not.
lots of guidance. But no, after about 2 years, I was moved into the main newsroom, and that was what I loved most. I didn't like going to crime scenes.
Mhm.
That was hard for me to do that kind of news. But, oh my heavens, let me tell a story about Kansas, and I just had fun. The thing of it is, I got to work with such talented people, and that was the thing that was the best of all worlds, was to work with photographers that are nationally known now,
reading through the different things you've done in your career and continue to do now in retirement.
Semi.
It's clear that I'm not going to have time to hit on everything that you've done because there's just so much. So I kind of have to pick my questions carefully here. And I think I know the answer to this, but I still want to ask it. Did you always love Kansas?
Yeah, I was a geeky kid, and I would always buy these True West magazines, and like as a kid, I'd save my money and buy those. And so I would spout these things, just trivia. I'm still doing it.
So hit us with some random Kansas trivia.
Well, I just recently did one. I'm doing once a week, I do a trivia for the Stafford County Economic Development. But I just thought it was a kick. In the 1890s, do you know how dating went about?
Oh, you were being courted, basically, and you
Yes.
had to have chaperones basically the entire time, right?
Well, that is true. That's very true. But one of the big things was onion sociables. And that is where a woman, well, there'd be like 6 women that would line up, and one of them would take a bite out of an onion. And the men who were courting them had to figure out, they could look at the onion to see the circumference of the bite and all that kind of stuff. And then they would guess who bit the onion. And if the man guessed right, he would get to kiss the other women. But if he guessed wrong, he had to kiss the woman.
Onion?
The onion breath.
That is wild.
Isn't that funny?
That is not where I thought that was going.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. So, I don't like. Did
And
somebody?
as I pointed out, thank heavens, in 2025 we can just swipe right.
We've simplified it a little bit.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy.
But I mean, there's so many cool things.
Yeah.
And I always get kind of geeky whenever I find really good ones. So,
Oh my goodness.
So, a lot of your work, some people may label as like the feel-good pieces.
They are. I'll admit that.
But feel-good pieces are still important, obviously. And there have been pieces that you've done that have caused real-world change. It's not like it just kind of goes out there and makes people feel happy.
Yeah. I think it's important that people feel something. And that may be all different kinds of emotions. But I think that's the things you will remember the longest. And I also used to teach. Jay Price was so sweet. At Wichita State University, I got to teach a few years with Kansas history. And one of the things I always told people was this, that after all these years of interviewing people, I've interviewed thousands of people, but what you remember is the passion. You remember the passion and the faces of the people. You may not remember their names, you may not remember the quotes, but you remember that moment.
As a journalist, you have this ability to concentrate the public's attention on things. Did you? There's a couple instances in your career where you caused change, like with the Home to Range cabin, and then the bridge down in Wichita.
Yeah.
So could you talk about, like, did you expect the public to have a reaction to those pieces, or?
No.
Okay.
But like the Home on the Range cabin. Okay, my boss, Tom Shine, he'll probably be embarrassed when I tell this story. But after I got through sleeping at the Home on the Range cabin, I was the first person in, I think it was 126 years to sleep in the cabin.
This is the cabin where it was written.
In Smith County, yes. And Tom, it was such a success. He thought what would be really funny is if I did a column where I stayed at historic places and we could call it Sleeping Around with Beccy Tanner.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
No. And there's a part of me I would still like to do that.
But maybe we call it something different.
So what happened after you slept there at that cabin?
Well, the first time I went out there, it was on the winter solstice. And I think that it was going to get down to like 17 degrees.
Oh,
and when I first got there, it was like around 3 in the afternoon. You could see your breath. And I thought, it would be so cool if I did my Christmas cards then. So I was in these old woman handwriting because it was cold. And you know what happens to your hands when it gets cold. I was writing the stuff out. Again, you could see your breath. Around 9 o'clock, I was beginning to think, what if I become the story? What if I freeze to death?
Thank goodness that didn't happen.
It didn't, because I called Eldine Holthus, he was the caretaker of the cabin. And I said, I just can't do it. And I had gone out there because I wanted to see, hear, and feel the things that Brewster Higley did. And you can do all of that. And I actually slept there twice. I did sleep a little bit that night, but I went back when it was in the springtime, and it was a lot easier because I'm not a camper. But it was so fun doing that, and to wake up and the doorway, there were deer prints at the door. There were, and it's Beaver Creek that runs right by the cabin. And so to hear the coyotes and owls, those kind of things were, to me, that just brought the words to life. And as I was coming back, driving back to Wichita from the cabin, one of the things that struck me was how much the cabin needed help, that it was falling down. It was, it needed attention. And it was largely because of Orrin Friesen, who was at a radio announcer in Wichita, but also with the Prairie Wranglers. I think that's the name, I'm going blank, but he was instrumental in helping get fundraisers going. And then Ken Spurgeon, the filmmaker, and I hope you guys have both of those guys on sometime, but Ken Spurgeon did a movie called Home on the Range, and it told that story and how Kansas nearly lost that song and how we fought to have that song as our state song. And it's now one of the most beloved folk songs in the world. And Orrin Friesen will tell you the story of how when they went over to China, they started to sing that song and the people sung it back in Chinese. It's such a great story.
Wow.
And that we nearly lost it. So that was the people, the readers at the Eagle were so generous, and they helped save that. Greg Kite, who is with the Wichita Sedgwick County Historic Preservation, he helped do grants to write grants to get the money to save the cabin. So it was really this team effort, and the only thing I did was just create some awareness on it. Everybody else did huge stuff. I went back when it had been restored. And when And so I know I sound like a wimp, and I am. But when I stayed there the first time, there were these huge holes in the walls and that kind of thing. So on a winter's night, that wind just came right through. And again, I didn't want to become the story. So
Kansas Wesleyan is proud to be the educational crossroads of North Central Kansas. As a partner of Ask a Kansan, we share the desire to build our communities and to discover what makes our region special. Learn more about the power of and at kwu.edu. You have one of your favorite words is the word, and I'm going to say this wrong, topophilia?
yes. Right? How'd you know that?
Good question. Tell me about topophilia.
Oh, well, it's the love of the land. And it's a combination of two words, topa, which means the land, and then philia, which is like Philadelphia, but it means the love of. And you can find that anywhere in Kansas, that feeling, that love of the land. You just have to look out, do the back roads. You'll find it.
So you retired from the Wichita Eagle a few years ago.
2018. I was actually part of the streamlining process where hundreds, thousands of journalists were laid off all over the nation. And I just want to keep going. Yeah. And because I love what I do. And that's kind of where that all came about.
And then you made the decision to move from Wichita, I assume, back to St. John?
Because that's where I came from.
Yeah. And yeah, just describe like the thought process and why you made that move.
Well, I wanted to go home. I have loved every town I've lived in. I truly have. But I wanted to go home and to see people I've known since I was a little kid, all those kind of things. They had the audacity to get older, and that surprised me. But I'm trying to connect faces now and all those kind of things. But I wanted to feel like I belonged, and I do.
Did St. John feel like it had changed?
Oh, very much so. It was not the Mayberry RFD that I remembered. And I'd say that jokingly, but it is a wonderful community. But there are times when it's hard finding volunteers. There's times when it's just, as a small town, having the resources to do things. And so I wanted to be involved.
I live in Salina, and so I'm not as connected with the small towns as many are. But I think that's common, right? Across small towns in Kansas.
Absolutely.
There's always a need for more people to be involved and help with things. So you certainly got involved. Could you share some of the different things that you've been doing?
Sure. I'm a board member at the St. John Homecoming Hall and Museum, also known as the Lucille M. Hall Museum. We've been, at that point when I first stepped on the board, we were only open a half day a year, and that was during the town jubilee. And so we have gradually been changing that, and now we're open at least 2 days a week. And you know, again, finding people who will help volunteer and be a part of the process has been a challenge. But we've done a lot with exhibits and photo displays, things like that. One of the things that Stafford County has is the Stafford County Historical Museum. Several years ago, the W.R. Gray family donated 30,000 glass negatives, and it's one of the largest collections of glass negatives in the nation. And right now, those are carefully preserved in a bank vault in Stafford. But what we would like to do is make room and start revolving photo displays of these glass negatives. And one of the things I've been really blessed is Bo Rader is a good friend of mine, and he's a photographer, a nationally known photographer. And we've been friends since our collegiate days at K-State back in the 1970s. And he's very much into glass negative photography now. And the first project he did for us was featuring the Exoduster families, the descendants of the African Americans who homesteaded in Stafford County in the late 1870s, early 1880s. And a woman by the name of Alice McMillan helped track down those descendants and has become good friends with them. And they were invited back to St. John, and we still stay in touch, but of just giving a voice to those homesteaders who did not have any real record or history in Stafford County because those stories were simply not preserved as other prominent families were. We've also done a project on Native Americans because we had no written history of the Native. We knew Native Americans were in the area, but we did not know who they were or any of that. So that was another project we did.
And a documentary came out of that one?
13 videos, a documentary that's an hour and a half long, and 15 portraits of the glass negative, because we wanted that to be in keeping with what we already had. And, the photos are phenomenal.
What would you say are your biggest takeaways from that particular project, capturing the history of Native
We
Americans?
now have a written history of the Native Americans who were in Stafford County before they were forcibly removed in the 1870s. That's when the majority of Native Americans were removed from Kansas. The takeaway, I just finished writing an article for Kansas Magazine on this, but the truth of it is they never left. They're still here, and in some form or another through reservations and the people who stayed in Kansas, Native Americans still have a wonderful presence in the state of Kansas. The other thing that's important is that despite all the things that happened to them during the cultural conflicts of the 19th century, some of them still came back to Kansas during World War II when plane manufacturing plants were wanting people, all eligible people, to come and work in the plants. And not only through the state of Kansas, but the surrounding states. They needed employees. And so many of them came back, and strong communities were formed because of that.
Something I feel like I've heard growing up and still think about and talk about today is that there's a certain spirit of Kansas that exists. And there's some historical figures that often get brought up, like John Brown and others, that seem to typify that like really independent spirit. Given the experience you've had covering this state, how would you define the spirit of Kansas?
I think the historian Craig Miner did some wonderful analogies of that. But he would say that Kansans are hardworking. They have a sense of humor, of resilience. There are so many things that you can say, but I think those are the key elements there. And for the most part, they have bullshit detectors. They can tell. Can we say that?
Can now.
You've said it, so go for it.
Or the substance that comes out of the rear end of a male bovine. Would that work? The byproduct.
Oh my goodness.
But they can tell if you're not shooting straight.
the word authenticity comes to mind?
Very much so.
I do have a question for you. So I want to go back to kind of the journalism aspect, just because you've been in it for so long and have such an expertise in it. Do you feel journalism has changed through the years?
Yes.
Yeah. I spent the reason I asked that is I've spent a good chunk of the morning combing through newspapers.com. It's my favorite place to go when we're looking for content. And reading articles from, early 1900s, like 1920s, 1930s first articles now, it's vastly different, where some of them were very straight to the point. So-and-so came to so-and-so's house and they
Had
did
tea,
this.
And
Yes.
a good time was had by all.
Exactly. And to where that is, you don't even get stories like that anymore.
No. I think the journalists now, they are doing such hard work and such good work. But when I first started at the Eagle, we had like 150 people in the newsroom. They now have, I think it's closer to 10.
Wow.
And when you're looking at covering the state of Kansas, that's a lot of territory. And a lot of times they can't cover the state of Kansas because things are happening, so quickly close to home. I admire them. I admire that they are doing such great work. That's just it. We, at least when I was in the heyday in the 80s and 90s, that was before the layoffs really started. But oh my heavens, you could do such incredible things at that point because we had the manpower and women power.
This episode is sponsored by Renaissance Cafe. Serving Northern Italian cuisine prepared with a fresh, contemporary influence, the Renaissance Cafe is one of Kansas's favorite restaurants. Whether you're planning a romantic dinner date, a family celebration, or an intimate meal with friends, the Renaissance provides a unique dining experience with an old-world atmosphere. Open Thursday through Saturday evenings, the Renaissance Cafe is located just south of Salina in Assyria, Kansas. Visit renaissancecafeassyria.com to book your reservation today. As we're storytellers too, and we're capturing stories like yours. What advice would you give us as we go forth and try to find more stories to tell?
Honey, you do not need advice. You're doing it. You are doing it.
Oh, well, thank you. But maybe I want to learn from you.
Just letting people tell their stories. That is all we have to do. And not get ahead of that. Just let them. That was thing that I really tried to stress when we did the First People of Kansas project, was to let the people tell the stories, because their stories had been misinterpreted so many times before, and it was important that their own words be heard. And that was the thing. I am so proud of that project. It was a Humanities Kansas project. We would not have been able to do it without that grant. But to do it and to have the people involved, like one of the women, one of her ancestors was related to Geronimo. We had so many who were the sons and daughters of chiefs and that kind of thing, elders and holy people. And so it was wonderful to let them tell those stories. And Bo has such a wonderful way of capturing their faces and portraits that it's just beautiful.
Well, I think I heard that you may have some photos to share with us that we can post. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, that'll be great for the audience to be able to see that. So you spent some time teaching at Wichita State, you referenced earlier, and I gather you're teaching Kansas history. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And was that...
And doing bus trips on the back roads. That was fun.
Was that with students or with members of the public?
Anybody that wanted to go through community education at Wichita State University. So that was fun.
What is it like being in the classroom and teaching? It's a very different communication form than through print and through journalism.
But I cheated a little bit. And that is, I had people who were guest speakers.
Mm.
And because, again, it's that passion. And to have people like Jim Gray, who's the director of the Geneseo Museum, and to have Ken Spurgeon and Orrin Friesen and all of those people tell their own stories. To me, that's the passion of Kansas history.
My parents and through them now me, we believe in the liberal arts and their value, and Kansas history is one of those things that I imagine when parents or students are trying to figure out what electives they're going to go through, and some schools require that, obviously, but give me a good impassioned speech that we can spread that message of why a Kansas history class is important.
I think more importantly, it's important for the teacher who teaches Kansas history to feel passionate about it. Because if they are not passionate, then the students will never be passionate. Or to at least have parents that care about the history. One of the hardest things is convincing people that it's important that we tell these stories. It's important that we don't leave people out. And so that's why I think that's the biggest defense there. But there are so many cool stories. And, Deb Goodrich, who is at Fort Wallace and an incredible historian, she talks about how Kansas really came into statehood just as the Civil War was starting. And, Ken Spurgeon also talks about that really Kansas grew up with the United States. And we had to because of the war. I think that's kind of cool. And the fact that the Kansas History Museum is now open and, oh my heavens, I can't wait to get there.
You've done some work with the Kansas Leadership Center. Could you talk about that a little bit?
I love the feeling of newsroom. And, COVID changed so much, but it's fun to just do the meetings through Zoom and all of that, and to get the really creative ideas that people have. And that's just, some of the stories I've told through the journal have been about the exodusters and coming to Stafford County and the Geneseo Museum and its UFOs, all of those things. There's been a wide variety. And quite frankly, one of the top read stories was Big Ed's Steakhouse in Bird City. So that's worth going to.
This may be a little bit of my own naivete, but how does that connect with leadership at Kansas Leadership Center? Like, was there an element of your story that talked about leadership?
How does the community come along with that? How do you go with an idea? Mullinville, with all the grass arts and Lucas, how do communities support that? And quite frankly, Kansas, when it comes to grassroots art, we rank third in the nation because we have folks tend to be semi-retired with a little time on their hand, and they begin.
Dangerous thing with a kid.
They start taking up their own genre of art.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite of those artists in Kansas? The Garden of Eden or the guy down south by Pratt? Is that the right place?
Mullinville?
Yeah.
I love Lucas, and I love all the different artists that come from that. That's just, Erica Nelson is just wonderful, and oh my heavens, the things that she's been able to do.
We have had her on the podcast.
She is incredible.
Love her and all she does. So you mentioned these bus trips, and you said you took people on the back roads. You didn't go to. I'm assuming you came from Wichita on those bus trips from Wichita State, but you didn't go to the Cosmosphere. I love the Cosmosphere, but you were.
Yeah, we did.
Did you? Okay.
You
hit all sorts of things.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm doing them that much anymore.
Sure.
And part of that is because I'm getting more involved in other stuff. So
good for you. By getting off the beaten track and exploring those dirt roads out in the middle, what did you find? And what did you show people?
One of the places, my absolute favorite places, is Quivira National Wildlife Refuge. For me, just being able to show people on that day that we went, they got to see whooping cranes, which a lot of them had never seen before. Sock coyotes, all those kind of things. You never know what you're going to see. And to experience sitting down in the community center at Hudson and having a buffet from the Wheatland Cafe and getting for people to just talk with people. We've been to Lucas, we've been to Southeast Kansas, to Big Brutus, and all over. And I think people love the chance to get in a bus like, college kids, they're 70, 80, 60, what it doesn't matter. But just feeling like a whole bunch of friends are traveling down the road together. You don't have to worry about anything. And just seeing the sights and sounds and learning a little more about the state, that's fun.
We had Rex Buchanan on.
Yes, love him.
Yeah, Rex does a similar thing, I think, with the geological tours.
Does.
He was telling us how when people from out of state come, they don't have a lot of preconceptions about what Kansas is. And a lot of Kansans have a lot of preconceptions about what Kansas is. You seem like the right person to give us a Kansas pep talk.
One of the things that struck me when I was in the Bureau out at Dodge City was when European travelers came, they were so struck by hearing the wind and experiencing the wind in Kansas. And for someone who grew up on a farm, that was pretty ordinary. But to have people whose socks were knocked off by just being out in the middle of the prairie, hearing the wind and feeling it, I thought that was the coolest thing. And you see that. I mean, when I was growing up, people were ho-hum about Kansas. Native Kansans. There wasn't anything in Kansas. A large part was that people had not really been made aware of it. And it took people like Marcy Pinner and the Kansas Sampler Foundation. You have all these people now, the Rex Buchanans, all these people saying, this is really a cool place. These are my favorite places to go. When I need a little bit of peace, this is where I go. And I think people want things that they don't have to travel far, but they'll still experience that. And anywhere in the state, you can do that.
This episode has been great because you've pointed at a lot of different folks that you've worked with and that you know of, and many of whom we've had as guests.
We've had a lot of them on.
Have you had Jim Gray yet?
No.
Oh, you guys have got to get him in here.
Okay, we will, or we'll do our best.
And Ken Spurgeon.
Yeah, Ken has come up, and we need to invite him on for sure. But
Deb Goodrich?
I don't think she's on the list. She's on the list.
Because she's just come out with a book that would be good to talk
wonderful.
about. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, thank you for that, for being a place of connection for people that are interested in this topic in Kansas.
The thing is, people get real excited about it. They really do. And they want to feel something. They do. And I just think they can. We can do that.
Well, thank you so much
for
coming on the podcast today and telling us about yourself and about your work and about Kansas.
It's been an honor.
Want to spread your organization's message across Kansas? Consider becoming a sponsor. Ask a Kansan has a unique focus on Kansas and its people. By sponsoring our podcast, your organization can reach people from Canarado to Kansas City, Wichita to Washington, and all the great places in between. We have a variety of sponsorship packages available to fit your budget and needs. For more information, visit askakansan.com/sponsorships or call us at 785-571-9507.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that interview with Beccy. It was really fun to talk to somebody who's honestly got such a deep well of knowledge about the state. It's always a little bit intimidating to me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, because you're like, do I really know Kansas all that well? We have this whole podcast around Kansas, and then you interview someone who's quite literally gone corner to corner, and you're like, I don't know anything.
but that's why we're here is the curious part of what we do. And yeah, Beccy was a great person to be a vehicle for that.
And if you want more information, she does have books. She's written 2 books. We'll link those in the description if you'd like to find those.
Well, do you have something for us?
I do.
Okay.
So because of Beccy, we are going to do sort of a Where in the Rectangle Beccy version.
Okay.
So I went on newspapers.com. I found newspaper articles from different counties.
Oh.
And they are sort of Christmas themed.
Oh.
So we're going to read the article, and there are little hints in each article, and you have to guess the county.
Can I go get my Where in the Rectangle rectangle?
Go get your rectangle. Can you get
Okay,
my rectangle?
so I have my little cheat
Okay.
sheet thing.
All right. So first one. So don't pay attention to what's on the pages of the article first, and this other part is just to give context. So January 3rd, 1918. A Christmas mishap to Frank Wagner of Lebanon, Soldier Boy, has got him in bad with the military authorities. He was home on leave from Camp Funston and went hunting. Crawling through a fence, he accidentally discharged the shotgun he carried, and the charge struck one of his feet. His leave was only for Kansas, and the accident occurred in Nebraska. And the big, I think that's
bugs.
The big bugs refused to accept his explanation that the shooting was not intentional. It is reported that Frank sulked a good deal about going to the Army, and this is against him too. So I'm assuming Frank was drafted. And the reason I say that is so that's where this portion comes through, because this was January 1918. So we were like deep into World War I.
Yep.
The draft happened. So Lebanon, that's your big key there.
Yeah.
Of where do you
town
think
name.
this newspaper, what county was this?
This is a challenge.
Newspaper.
I've obviously heard of Lebanon, but putting it on the map, that is hard. Well, I'm fairly confident it's up near the Nebraska border. I'm just not sure which direction to go. I'm going to say Phillips County.
Close. You Smith.
Oh, I even thought about Smith.
Scroll down a little bit more. There you go. Smith County.
Okay. Cool.
So you were close. Yeah. Up there. So poor Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we don't really know, do we?
We don't really know what happened.
Hopefully he didn't have to go to war. But yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Next story.
This is fun. I like this.
This one's a little bit more lighthearted. So these are Dear Santas. These are letters from elementary school kids that were posted in the newspaper. And this is not 2012, but 1912.
Yeah.
Little finger miss up there. But all right. Garfield School. Dear Santa Claus, I would like to have a drum, a football, an air gun, and an airship, and an automobile, and a ball, and the bat.
And a thesaurus.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Santa Claus. So again, these are grade school. This kid's probably like 7.
Hence
but
the use of aim.
I will say air guns, super popular. Like I read a lot of these. Every single kid wanted an air gun. I'm assuming that's like a BB gun or an airsoft gun type of deal.
Yeah, I don't
assuming, but I don't know.
Yeah, when like 1912.
Yeah.
Wow.
Another kid, Garfield School. I would like to have a sled. I would like to have a football. I would like to have a air gun, wheelbarrow, which is interesting. Tools, shovel, spade, and auto. That's all. Your boy, Teddy Ring.
Your boy,
Teddy
It's like a
Ring.
drop. Yeah. An auto? Is he asking for a car?
Maybe.
Just a car. Just throw a car in
Just
there.
a car. It'd be like a go-kart or a little pedal car.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Garfield School is kind of your only.
Okay. And so I assume Garfield is the name of a town.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, because I happen to know that like in this era, Garfield would have been. I mean, there could have been multiple townships across the state.
Multiple.
Named that. So I'm gonna take a stab, and I do think I've heard of a town named Garfield, and I think we've maybe even brought it up in a previous episode. I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna say Western Kansas. I'm gonna go with Gove County.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm way
actually Concordia,
That's
Kansas.
Embarrassingly close
County.
to us. Okay.
So the Garfield School in Concordia.
Okay.
Is what that one was, I believe. Gotcha. So Cloud County, not too far.
Okay.
All right, this next one is a little interesting. This is from the Daily Globe, Thursday, December 24th, 1891. All persons holding tickets in the raffle for a toilet case at M. Knowles should be at the store at 8:00 this evening when the drawing will take place. At the same store, you will find unusual holiday attractions this evening. Now, I don't know what a toilet case is, and I really want to know what unusual attractions are.
So is there a part of Kansas that has a lot of toilets or something? What's my clue?
Your clue is the Daily Globe.
The Daily Globe.
In the address. I made this one really hard.
South 5th Street.
But you also keep in mind the date, 1891.
Okay, so I'm going to say more than likely the eastern half of the state. Just because there's probably more people there. So I know there's a 5th Street in Salina. But I don't think I've ever heard of the Daily Globe in Salina. So I'm going to say, I'll go with Emporia. Which would be, I don't know.
You were right on the eastern side. It's Atchison.
Atchison, okay.
You were good. So yeah, Atchison.
Nice.
I only found 3. It was a struggle to get those 3. So
I love it. No, this is fun. The newspapers.
Newspapers are always very interesting to me.
I've spent a few hours in the last couple weeks, looking at old newspaper clippings from stuff in my family, and
that's what this originally started as. That's why you don't see my grandparents up on the shelf right now. Is because I took them down because I had to read what was on the back of one, and I was trying to find difference. I couldn't find it. But anyway, apparently Eugene Holden do a lot of fun stuff, and that was reported in the newspapers.
My dad, at Thanksgiving this year, I had found an article about my dad when he was a little boy in Salina. And this would have been in the mid to late 50s. And he dressed up like a scarecrow to look like a witch, I think it was. I'm starting to doubt my memory. And he brought it to school, and they just like put it in the corner of the classroom. And there's a whole, it's a whole story.
Okay. Back up.
Yeah.
Okay. He did not dress as a scarecrow dressed as a witch.
No.
He dressed up a scarecrow
as a witch.
Okay.
He kind
of did not compute
used,
for me.
The scarecrow technique to build a witch.
Got it. Okay.
And there's elements of this I'm forgetting, but some truly horrific black and white photography of this thing. And you know how it kind of was sketchy when you tried to print that way back in the day, and really horrifying. So
yeah. I can only imagine.
Awesome. Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Ask a Kansan. We're getting close to the end of the year, end of our first season of Ask a Kansan. Have a good, we should have 2 more episodes, I believe, this year. We're going to do another one with a guest, and then we have a special kind of year-end culmination episode that will be really fun. And then we'll be back for season 2 of Ask a Kansan in January. So, as always, if you would, if you like the podcast, would you tell a friend about it? Would you leave us a review? Those are the 2 best ways you can support this podcast. You can also like, comment, subscribe. And just get out there, explore Kansas, be curious about it, and tell us what you find.
There's plenty of stuff to do even when it's cold outside.
True. A lot of coziness.